everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome you all to yet another insightful session of the Glass Academy webinars in collaboration with Ethos Empowers. As a part of our continuing exploration of how glass and smart architecture intersect, today's session explores how glass responds uniquely to different user groups and programmatic needs and how it reshapes the experience of built environments. Our session today is titled Transparency in Typologies: How Glass Transforms Every Space. Across different building types, whether homes, offices, schools, hospitals, or cultural spaces, glass is never just a material. It is a mediator of light, a connector of people, and a shaper of experiences. What makes it fascinating is how its role shifts with context, offering privacy in one space and openness in another. In this conversation, we'll explore how transparency adapts across typologies, the considerations that shape its use, and the lessons it holds for creating environments that are both functional and inspiring. To guide us through this journey, we are honored to welcome architect Siddarth Shankar, whose practice reflects both depth of experience and sensitivity to context. A graduate of Manipal Institute of Technology and a master's degree holder from the State University of New York, Buffalo. Architect Siddarth brings global exposure and local relevance into his design approach. And since 2003, Mr. Siddarth has been a partner at Shankar and Associates, where he has helped shape a diverse, highly regarded portfolio spanning residences, institutions, and public spaces. His projects have consistently drawn attention in leading architecture and design publications, a testament to both the quality and the influence of his work. With that, it gives me great pleasure to welcome architect Siddarth Shankar as he shares his insights on how transparency and glass, when thoughtfully integrated, can transform the way we design and experience spaces. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
So, sir, before we jump into the world of glass, could you please share a little about your journey, how and what drew you into architecture, and how your design approach has evolved over time?
From Manipal in 97. Um, Let me tell you how I got into architecture. My father started our practice. I mean, next year we become a 60-year-old practice. So, so my father started the practice. But, as all sons would be, I was never interested in becoming an architect till about 12th standard. But I used to do a lot of comic books. I used to do a lot of comic book art. I used to do a lot of cartoons and stuff like that. And then I applied to a bunch of schools and I wrote the aptitude test in Manipal and qualified. And that's kind of how it was. It's almost accidental that I got into architecture. But then the journey has been very fruitful and very interesting. I mean, I've had the opportunity to work across a bunch of countries. Working in India, I worked in Singapore for a bit, and then of course I practiced in the US for almost 3 to 3.5 years. So very different practices, and each journey has shaped the way I start thinking about architecture. I think let me start with my journey in Singapore, which taught me a lot of detailing, which taught me a lot of precision in architecture. The US, kind of taught you to think bigger. It talked about big scale. It taught you to dream bigger. And India um, taught you how to manage, how to troubleshoot, how to, attack problems, then and there. So each of it has been a different learning experience.
That's great, sir. That's great. And talking about your practice, I've seen that your practice has handled a wide range of projects over the years. Could you give us a glimpse into this diversity and how working across such different project types has shaped your perspective as a designer?
Sure. So I call ourselves the ATV of practices, all-terrain vehicles. We take everything that comes to us, right? From a 2,500 square feet, a house to a 500 square feet studio to a 4 million square foot medical college campus. So we will take everything because I believe in everything there is an opportunity to design something interesting. We are, I mean, fundamentally, the whole practice is geared towards, trying and doing different kinds of building, different typologies of building, and adapt different strategies towards it. What excites us most is the fact that we are able to bring together a lot of disciplines into creating a built form. Because especially, I mean, when you take hospitals and when you take large engineering campuses, not just the architect that is involved, there are several other disciplines that are involved in sort of doing it. The way our practice is set up is we have an architectural side, we have a structural side, we have an interior design side, and we have our QS estimation and specification side. So fundamentally, we are multidisciplinary, and that sort of has shaped the practice. And that's also why we are able to do different typologies. And to me, the most interesting thing about working on different typologies is the shift in scale, right? I mean, in a house, you will have to look at a completely different scale. You'll have to look at a completely different kind of budget. You'll have to completely different socio-economic, criterion. You'll have to look at a completely different site consideration uh, versus a factory building, where the whole set of the whole set of criteria are different. So that really excites us. And what we have done is the organization is sort of split into teams, and every team is multidisciplinary. I do not want anybody to be pigeonholed into doing one type of work. So we are and that's kind of the ethos that we do across the organization. So that's kind of how we set up. And because of that, I mean, the journey has taken us through, various geographical locations, various kind of buildings, and most interestingly, various kind of people. And both, we've worked with a lot of people, and there's a lot of different kind of people working with us also. So we pride ourselves on our team. And our team, we like to make our team as multidisciplinary as possible. For example, a structural engineer will not be pigeonholed only into doing, structural design. We involve him a little bit in project coordination. We involve them right from planning. So that's kind of how we're structured.
That's great, sir. That's actually very important in any firm, in any team to have that. So that's great. So, within all the diversity of your projects, sir, how have you seen glass specifically adapt differently across contexts, whether it is residential, commercial, or healthcare?
Like you said, glass is an extremely interesting material, right? And the last about 25 years of my practice in India, um, it has changed substantially. It has gone from being, just a window which brings in light into the building to defining what the project is. Today, about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, glass was just a means to bring in light. 10 years ago, it became an aspirational material. Anybody that wanted a modern building, I mean, you take any movie, they wanted to show a modern building, they'd show one of these glass fronted towers. Today, it has become a tool in design in itself. So, I mean, you are able to bring in light, you're able to cut light, you're able to bring in heat, you're able to bring in, you're able to cut heat. So you're able to do variety of things with the way glass has evolved. And but it is also a material like any other material that you have to use very mindfully, because you can use it extremely creatively, and you can also use it in such a way that glass can be detrimental also. So like I tell a building, I mean, a lot of times when clients come to us with these little plots, they come with these Pinterest images of a building in Finland. So I tell them, yeah, it's beautiful, lovely. In Finland, your neighbor is 50 feet away. Here you can put your hand out and shake your hand with the neighbor. So as much as you can see out, they can see in. So there, the use of glass becomes extremely critical, and how you use glass appropriately is very important. And one of the things I mean, it's something that I talk a lot on is the use of glass in a tropical country like ours. Because if used right, it can bring in all the benefits of climatology. But if used wrong, you're going to be sitting in quote unquote a hot glass box.
Correct, sir. True, very true. Especially when you said at this time and age, glass is something that defines the project. So, even beyond building types, sir, there are a lot of different user groups that experience this transparency differently. So, how do you decide where transparency should be emphasized or where it should be controlled or limited?
I think the first step is dependent on what kind of building that you're working on, right? Glass works very differently in a residential building. It works very different in a factory. It works very differently in a hospital building. So the first nature of glass is its transparency, and it's how you use the transparency that matters. So I think appropriate use of glass, depending on functionality, is the first key step in in the decision to use glass. The second key step in the decision to use glass, I think, is climatology. Is
Hmm.
anything is relevant, and anything is interesting, and anything is useful if used in the right time and place.
Yes, sir. And when you're planning and analyzing these spaces, what factors guide your decisions on how glass should be used for light, views, privacy, or connectivity, sir?
Orientation, microclimate, like I said, functionality. Where do you want people to see through? Where don't you want people to see through? Where do you want light to come through? Where do you want diffuse light? Where do you want heat to come through? Where do you want diffuse light to come through shading devices? So all those things are very, very important while deciding where to use glass and what type of glass to use. Today, you can use glass. Glass has become fluid today. You can use glass. It's also become a lot more forgiving because of uh, how technology has changed the way glass is used. Right? I mean,
Yes.
you have glass that mists. You have glass that change color. You have glass that are performance glass that let things in, that let's heat in. There is one way mirror. There are several ways to use glass, and it's a really powerful material if used.
Yes, sir. Very true, very true. And sir, maybe could you tell us about a project that you have done where the use of glass changed the way that people experience the space by maybe giving it like a completely different atmosphere?
I'll talk about a project that we're currently working on, and we use glass in a very, very interesting way. And this is the KMCH, Kovai Medical Center's new OP block that we are working on. And I'll talk about usage of glass in the ICU. It's something that a lot of people haven't experienced, right? Normally, when you walk into intensive care units, a lot of the people, contrary to popular expectations, are awake and aware. Okay, it's just that their vitals are being monitored and there's some amount of control and they're awake. One of the things that uh, people get into while they're sick is they start getting claustrophobic, and they feel like they're trapped inside a box, because inside an ICU, time has no meaning because you really don't know what time it is, right? And
Yes.
because of it, a lot of people lose context. A lot of people lose their bearings, and the illness continues because of that. Because a lot of the time, people get cured because your mind get cured faster when your mind is also working faster.
Hmm.
Right? So in this project, one of the things that we are doing now is we are replacing traditional ICU curtain with misting glass cubicles, right? So glass cubicles that mist. I mean, when you pass electricity through glass cubicles, you have glass that change transparency, and we are doing it. So there is a connect. So whenever there is a doctor that's inside an ICU cubicle, he mists the glass so that he can work on the patient,
Hmm.
right? On the other times, the glass is opened out. So there is oneness. They see other people walking about the ICU, and they also see somebody else in the vicinity. So it gives them hope. It gives them that there's somebody walking around. So it gives them a context, and it gives them something to work towards getting their illness cured. The other thing that we are doing a lot of nowadays is we are doing these large glasses in ICUs above eye level. So when you're lying down, you're able to see the sky. You're able to see a little bit of the landscape. So we are, and in some of the ICUs, especially when we are able to do it on the in the last floors, we are also able to do these glass, canopies on the top. Not canopies, glass skylights on the top, which gives the patient, a bit of sunlight comes in. They are able to relate to the environment outside. They're able to see a little bit of the nature outside, and that brings a smile to their faces. To me, that's a very unique experience that we are working on in glass, and it's a very atypical type of use of glass that we are working on now. We are also working on a lot of tall buildings where wind and heat and all that is making a big difference. And the views from these tall buildings are fantastic. There's also another hospital that I'll talk about where the operation theaters now open out. Most operation theaters are steel boxes.
Hmm.
I'll give you an example. An orthopedic theater is a theater where doctors work on 16 to 17-hour surgeries, right? They are humans too. So they need to see outside. They need to refresh. They need to go stand near a window for a little bit to, they are to get refreshed and come back and work on the patient. So now what we do is we do these large glasses through which they are able to see out. That these are DGs which don't let any infection coming in. And these are absolutely today the technology allows us to do 5 meter by 6 meter panes, DGs through which we are able to see out and we are able to give the doctors a view. So the performance of the doctors also become very much better. So this is something that we are working on, especially in healthcare. It's a very unique way of using glass.
Yes, sir. It's actually very insightful to learn and listen about this very amazing technology. And sir, you have mentioned before about how important climate is, orientation, and microclimate. So, how exactly does climate and orientation influence your design choices when it comes to using glass?
So it to me is the single most important factor in the usage of glass. Imagine putting a large, unprotected, non-performance glass pane on the southern side or western side of a building in, let's say, Chennai or Jaipur, right? You will become Kentucky Fried Chicken inside, right? There's absolutely, you'll be roasted inside. I mean, yesterday, I was actually at a school where, I'd gone to visit a client. It's not designed by us, it's a school where they had done the entire administrative office out of glass, right? And not only did they have it, none of the glass windows were openable. A, the client told me to cool down his office, which is a good 3,000 square feet space, they need to turn on the AC 1.5 hours earlier. Okay. So you are talking about a good 40 to 45 tonner, air conditioned space being turned on 1.5 hours earlier. Otherwise, they are saying they're not able to sit. So the problem is, while it looks very cool, it looks awesome from the front, and on a nice morning, there are beautiful light rays coming in. The rest of the time, you're cooked. It's absolutely hot inside, right? So climate is what decides how glass is used. And another thing that I would recommend, at least in Indian context, is to, as far as possible, use shading devices on glass. Do protected glass. Don't do naked glass through. If you are doing naked glass, I mean, let's say you're putting up a Trump Tower or something where you have to put up a huge glass. I don't know if I'm going to get tariffed for this, but if you're going to put up a huge glass, then important to consult the glass experts to use performance glass. Not only that, the mullions and the transforms on the curtain walling plays a big part in shading in how glass facades are done. So it's very, very important that we work with a facade consultant or do a climatological shadow study before you use glass. And another thing is, today you have the technology to make glass openable wherever you want. You can also automate it. You can open it. You can close it with automation. So if you, as Gandhiji said, open the window, let the winds flow from the east and the west.
Yes, sir, true, very true. And sir, a lot of people think of glass as a static surface, but like you said, there are new technologies making it more dynamic, openable, thinking of switchable glass, acoustic glass, and even energy generating facades. How do you see these innovations influencing the way architects design for the future?
It's making our job very easy. For example, home theater today can be done completely in glass. It need not be one of those dark spaces where you don't have any windows at all. People are, a lot of the AV guys give me a lot of grief about having large windows in my home theater, but I tell them that these are acoustic glasses. These are glasses that can absorb sound. And when you need to reflect sound, draw a curtain. But the rest of the time, it need not be a dank space. A home theater can become a bright, multifunctional space. You can still watch a movie. You can look outside for a few minutes also. It need not be a completely closed space. So I'm even thinking movie theaters will become like things, glass is bound to change a lot of things. I talked about switchable glass. It's something that we're using a lot of, especially in hospitals. I mean, we're doing a physiotherapy unit here for Ganga Hospital where we are actually put the physiotherapy unit on the seventh floor, and it's got switchable glass and it opens towards the road. And at night you're able to open it out, and people are working out at night. Doctors are working on patients. Gyms, you can use it beautifully in gyms. In fact, one of the coolest experiences of switchable glass was a bar that I visited in New York City in Manhattan, where I wanted to go to the bathroom, and they said go to the bathroom, and it was right in the middle of the bar, right? And then you walked in, and you're already so scared. The minute you turn on the light, the glass completely becomes opaque. So it can give you very interesting, experiences like that. The other thing that I think is going to become is BPF, which is going to be photovoltaic glasses. Now that is going to be a game changer. If costs of mounted photovoltaic cells are going to become cheaper, and we are going to do photovoltaic coatings on glass, I think a lot of energy problems can be solved.
Yes, sir. It's so nice to hear about all these new innovations that are coming up, especially for the new designers, young architects. So, talking about the cultural perception, so the cultural perception of transparency can differ widely. Sometimes what feels open and welcoming in one context may feel intrusive in another. So, have you encountered any situation where cultural values have shaped the way you would integrate glass into a project?
Absolutely. We did a project in Nigeria where, it's a largely Islamic country. And, we had put a big glass in front of the wards, especially in the female wards. And it was not appreciated. But then it was a switchable glass. And what we also did was we did a nice, beautiful jali in front of the glass also. So what happened is, we were able to bring in a certain amount of light into the building, but at the same time, we protected the cultural, aspect of that country. So it was a very interesting experience there. Like I said, any material has to be used appropriately in whatever, whether it's a cultural context, whether it's a climatological context, or whether it is a functional context. So ultimately, appropriate use of material, right things in the right place, go a long way in making the whole experience satisfying.
Yes, true, very true. And we often talk about light and visibility, but acoustics and comfort are equally critical when it comes to design. So, how do you address challenges like sound control or thermal comfort while working with large areas of glass?
Very, very important point. I'll again give you an example. There's a hotel called CJ Palacio in Salem. It's right at the intersection of the Coimbatore Salem highway. And, the, the amount of noise there is tremendous because it's a highway, right? And there is an overpass also. So, what we have done is we have done both a performance glass and a double glass, about 6 glass on either side with a 10 air gap in between. We were able to bring down noise, which went up to almost 90 dB to almost about 45 to 46 dB inside the rooms. So it gave the people that occupied the room very good view of what was there outside, but at the same time kept out the noise. Well, a lot of people were very apprehensive about taking roadside rooms. Now we are very happy to say the demand is for the roadside rooms.
Wow, so that's great. Like you said, that is it is important to consider those aspects too when using materials like glass. And so looking at the future of Indian cities, how do you see the role of glass evolving in the context of dense urban environments where sustainability, energy efficiency, and human well-being all need to align?
It's very, very important. Glass is a very versatile material. And today, culturally, also, the minute there is a glass building, it feels that, the client feels that he has arrived. I mean, it also shows the technological progress of the client. So, glass is an aspirational material for a lot of people. And it's very important that it stays that way. So it's up to us architects to make sure that it's used in the right way and take its performance aspect also into consideration while designing. So glass is going to play a very, very big factor, especially in dense Indian environments. The other thing is, what is happening is the scale. I mean, that's something, the scales are shifting, right? Today, it is more expensive to buy land than to build because the land costs are spiral. So, what we are going to have is we are going to build a lot on a very, very small piece of land. So, glass is going to help us look out literally and metaphorically because otherwise you would build these boxes that are tall and dense without anything to look out to. And I think it's a very, very important aspect, very, very important aspect of modern construction, especially in this dense Indian environment. The second thing is the minute there are energy efficient glasses, the minute there are BPIFs where there are photovoltaic mounted glasses, all these things are going to help us in a energy expensive country like ours. It's going to become very, very important. The third thing, people are going to use glass more and more because now there are things like self-cleaning glasses, right? Because big problem with a lot of buildings is how do you clean glass, especially when you get taller. It's an expensive affair. The minute there are self-cleaning glasses, which I think it's just a matter of time before it all comes down, the self-cleaning glasses and all are going to solve those problems. So I think it's a very important material, especially in the dense, dense, futuristic-looking Indian context.
Yes, sir. That was very insightful, definitely. And so, in your view, what's the most important lesson about glass that the next generation of architects should carry into their practice, or a message to all the young designers?
Very important message is mindfulness. I mean, be mindful of everything around you while designing. The second thing that I tell all architects is nothing comes quick. Everything takes its time. So if you don't, nothing is Maggie. Nothing cooks in 2 minutes, right? If you want a good gourmet meal, it needs to cook. So similarly, while working with glass or any such material which is so versatile, study it, understand it, and then detail it. And most importantly, architecture is not, you are not a lone ranger. It's a multidisciplinary science today. So involve experts around you. People are willing to come and teach you how to use glass in the right way. So understand the properties of it, understand its versatility, and understand its technology before venturing into anything. Because you can do anything with glass today, whether it's shapes, forms, parametric design, biophilic design, anything is possible. But use it appropriately and use it at the right context.
Thank you so much, Architect Siddharth, for taking us through this enlightening journey across the typologies, showing us how glass adapts, evolves, transforms with context, and most importantly, for sharing your experiences and insights. Your reflections remind us that transparency is not just about light and visibility, but it's about creating connections, shaping behaviors, and elevating everyday behaviors. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us. We hope this conversation leaves you thinking about glass not just as a material, but as a medium of dialogue between space, climate, and people. On behalf of Glass Academy and Ethos Empowers, we are grateful to have had you with us. Wishing you all continued curiosity, growth, and inspired practice. Until next time, take care and keep building better. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.